Order this regularly scheduled monthly meeting of the Village of Ortonville Council. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. At this point in time, we will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. Tanya?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads. Lord, we thank you for each blessing that you have given us this day. We ask that you guide this council's deliberation as together we seek your will for our humble community. May council always seek to fairly explore all topics with open minds and open hearts. We also ask for your watchful protection over our children in the days ahead, as they fill their trick-or-treat bags and share in community fun, games, and in relationship building. And finally, Lord, we ask that you bless the efforts of OSEF in its quest to help those who are without adequate food, warm shelter during the cold months ahead. For it is in helping others that we help build your kingdom here on earth. In thy name we humbly pray. Amen.
Amen.
Roll call vote, please, Liz.
Price.
Here.
Watsu.
Here.
Dylas.
Absent with notice.
Eschman.
Here.
Skornica.
Absent with notice.
Sleva.
Here.
Wills.
Present. Have an agenda in front of us. Any corrections or additions to the agenda as presented for your review?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented. Support.
Motion by Councilman Eschman, supported by Councilman Butsu to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is accepted. We have minutes from the September 25th, 2017 regular meeting. There were some corrections which were emailed to all board members. I did find a couple other typos. Page 3, second paragraph, second line. At the end of the second line, Liz, if you'd strike the second will be will, upcoming. Are you with me?
Yep.
Okay. What is this?
I was going to suggest an amendment also. I just typed it up so it'd be fast.
Okay, all right. Any other changes to the minutes? Karen, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that under heading New Business D, M Waters, MDEQ, and PDES permit on page 5, and that just for purposes of accuracy, the minutes should be changed to begin with this. The minutes for the June 19th, 2017 Village of Ortonville Budget Workshop indicate under the heading New Business, General Fund, Department 101, 808, 010, Research and Development Projects eliminated the $2,000 for the MDEQ permit. Consequently, there was no money budgeted for this expenditure in the 2017-2018 Ortonville budget. And then go into the beginning of the minutes. And then I indicated the documentation. I've included that. Because what we were trying to do was rectify a $117,000 budget deficit. So at that budget workshop, we cut a number of things out. But at the last meeting, when this subject was brought up about this permit, I think someone said that there was money budgeted for the permit, but there really wasn't. And I've got a copy of, and I'm sure it's just just a mistake.
I think what the confusion is
It was
John
confusing.
coming in after Dave's departure. John made the assumption that that budget line item was not changed, and while Dave Trent was here and he was present for the budget review meeting, that line item was removed from the budget. But it was commented in our meeting that it was the monies were still there, when in fact they weren't. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I thought that's what I said.
Okay, well, no, I was just trying to help clarify.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so the money was removed from the budget in July, does not mean that there was not any money
June.
budgeted. It was budgeted, and then the budget was changed. So there is the possibility of having money in there just like any other thing. I don't think this is necessary. For any item, we don't go back and say whether there was or wasn't and where it came from, and I think it's unnecessary added information that doesn't make a difference as to what it occurs.
Yeah, I think it was more of a clarification.
Clarification, yeah.
Well, yeah, I was just doing it for accuracy and for some clarification. I did include a copy of the budget page, which indicate that it had been changed from 1950 down to 0. So, I was just trying to clear up that matter because it was kind of confusing at the last meeting.
Well, the bottom line was that it was removed, so I don't know that we need to make further clarification other than that.
Okay.
It was removed.
I do need to clarify something, and I apologize, I mean no disrespect, but we have never had a $117,000 deficit in our budget.
It was a, it wasn't really, it was a deficit that we were, because we wanted to do certain things. So what we were going to do, and I don't mean any disrespect to you.
I just seen the eyes roll and some jaws dropping when we had a $117,000 deficit, and that is not the case.
Well, no.
That's all.
I'll put it this way. Okay, I'll put it this way. What we were doing is we wanted to do certain projects with the roads that were very expensive.
I understand.
Now am I saying it better? Because I don't want to.
No,
I don't want to ruffle anybody's tail
The reaction from the crowd,
feathers.
because I was looking at them when they said it, and I thought, oh my God.
Oh no, I don't want to ruffle anybody's tail feathers at all.
Okay.
But that's what we were doing. We were.
They're too close to my watch.
By the time, you weren't here, but at the time, we wanted to do certain things for,
Right.
and it was, we were trying to reduce this $117,000 that we were going to go into,
What would have
go into
happened was
funds.
that deficit you're talking about really would have come out of the equity fund balance.
It is. And
So
that's
it's
where
not
it
really
came
a
from.
deficit in the overall budget. There's a difference. So, but, okay, your point's well taken, but not necessary. Any other comments? There being none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Or I make a motion to accept the September 25th minutes as amended.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Bryce, supported by Councilman Eschman to approve the minutes as amended of the September 25th, 2017 meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are accepted. I have acceptance items, the treasurer's report, and also the fire department's third quarter review. Item 7 on our agenda is disbursements in the amount of $36,363.85.
I have a question on line item number 10. It has to do with road professional services. We paid $8,071. John, what kind of report do we get when we get those type of services from them?
Which service was it? I didn't,
This had to do with the design engineering Cedar Schoolhouse, the resurfacing. So what type of report do we get when we get
well,
those?
they develop, they go out there and they do the limits of the project and the scope, and they prepare the bid book and all that. And we get all of that, and we see that, and then that they go out for bids with that. And when contractors come in to pick that up, so they can bid on it.
So it's the bid book and specs
It's not
then,
anything
or
that goes
is it
to council.
spec?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the specs and everything.
All right.
Which again is usable come next spring when we
Right, well, yeah,
rebid this
we won't pay
project.
that again. Right.
Okay. I have a question on item 12. Do we have the breakdown between the two items, the 144 South Street expenditure and the chicken ordinance expenditure for the attorney? If the
Well,
total,
we get an itemized bill, yeah.
right, but this is the total. I asked one time that these be broken out, because I wanted to keep track of that 144 South Street is our legal lawsuit that's in process against the owner at 144.
Okay, we have that, and I will email you that tomorrow morning.
Okay,
I apologize.
thank you.
So we're actually billed for two different items, two separate items.
Right.
Number 15 for the liquor licensing, is that for businesses in the area, or is that for the buildings that we have? Because I know you can't
Which-
have
which
it like in the
number
town
was it?
hall. 15? That's for ours, but for the liquor licensing?
Sorry.
The liquor license?
That's just it's just the fee, our portion of the fee.
For what, business fees or our local buildings? Like, you can't have it in the town hall, so is it for the businesses?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know if it was for our
Do
buildings.
you know what it is?
Yeah.
I know what it is.
You step to the microphone, please.
Beth Voorhees, I'm the treasurer for the village. We get paid from the state of Michigan for liquor license fees. And what we do is we turn around and we give them to Brandon Township because it has to do with our sheriff's department. The legal or the, DUIs, all of that from drinking. So since we don't technically have the police department, we just pass it on. It's just a pass on to Brandon.
So those are the fees we've collected and then we're then paying.
Well, we get a check from the state of Michigan, and we just turn around and give it to Brandon.
Thanks.
Thank you, Beth. Any other questions?
No, I'd just like to have the breakdown as well. I don't know if you're going to send it
I'm
to
gonna send it
everybody.
to you all.
Okay, all right, perfect. I'd like to motion that we approve the disbursements dating September 16th through October 15th, 2017, for a total of $36,363.85.
I will support that motion. Motion by Councilman Eschman, supported by Councilman Wills. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Liz.
Watson,
Yes.
Eschman,
Yes.
Sleva,
Yes,
Wills,
Yes.
Rice.
Yes?
Motion is passed to pay our bills in the amount of $36,363.85. Item 8 on our agenda is items from trustees. Subcommittee updates. Want to start down your way, Tanya?
Sure. I just would like to thank everybody for a very successful Witches Night Out. It was a night like tonight, but it was wonderful. The businesses were wonderful. The people were wonderful. I heard a lot of fun comments while I was walking around. So I appreciate the efforts, and I appreciate people for coming out and supporting all the hard work they did, too. That's all I got.
Okay. Dan, anything?
From the Personnel Committee, we have narrowed down our village manager search, and as council all knows, and this is more for the public, we did extend an offer to a potential candidate for the village manager's position. We hope to hear from her soon.
Yeah. Okay.
Deadline is tomorrow.
The Fire Authority Board did not meet this last month. However, station number 1 is completely, painted on the outside and tuck pointed as best they could. Looks really nice. But that's all we have from the Fire Authority Board.
Thank you.
Okay. At the Historical Society meeting, they made a profit of $390 for September Fest for the sale of their handmade rugs and also pie sales at $2 per slice. And also, if you are interested, at 8 p.m. on October 27th, that's this Friday, they are going to have what they call a tour through the mill, and they're going to talk about their Spirit Quest findings, because they had some psychics come in, and the psychics heard disembodied voices, and there was some whispering going on. So they will let you know exactly what the Spirit Quest findings are, and you can take a tour of the mill, and it's $10 per person. So I encourage you to go.
Does that mean that there's ghosts in the old mill?
They think so, yes. But you'll have to go to find out.
There was one other thing concerning the old mill. Grace Geisler, who weaves a lot of the...
She's here.
Oh, there she is. Grace, why don't you stand up? She's pretty important. She's my neighbor, number 1, but number 2, she was featured in one of the designer-decorator magazines out of Detroit, and it had a nice article. And had a nice article about the old mill. So it was pretty nice.
About the loom at the mill.
The old loom, correct.
Great. Thank you. When is the DDA's Saturday shop day? Shop local.
Thanksgiving.
That's November,
Day
right?
after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. November 25th. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I don't have anything other than that. Do you have anything from the DDA? Okay. All right. Item 9 on our agenda is public comments. This is on agenda items only. So look on your agenda, and if you see the item that you want to address, or you're free to step to the microphone, state your name, your address. Rather than 3 minutes, I think we're going to eliminate or lower it to 2 minutes. And you will get one opportunity to address the council. And you will address the council. You will not address the crowd, the audience. So if you would speak in the microphone and speak to the council, that would be appreciated. So with that said, if you would like to address the council, and at this point in time, this is agenda items only. And later on in the agenda, there will be an opportunity for you to speak to things that are not on the agenda that you want to speak to. So if you'd like to step to the podium, state your name, your address, then we'll proceed with this part of the agenda. Break the ice. 2 minutes, please.
My name is Deborah Jean Minnock. I'm a Brandon High School graduate,
moved away for 26 years, and moved back home because I like the sleepy country community. I remember the days of Farmer Tucker herding the cows across Oakwood Road twice a day to be milked. Several nearby communities have no ordinances against chickens. Holly doesn't, Fenton doesn't. I don't understand why we would continue with a silly ordinance like that. We are a country community. That's what we want to keep it, and we have enough government in our lives. We put you guys in office to do the things that we want improved, not come up with the ordinances like this. I mean, this is ridiculous. We're Ortonville. We're not Clarkston. We're not Lake Orion. We're not, any of these bigger towns. So I am for chickens, absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, I've been up here a couple times. Once again, I'm here again. My name is Cherie Weibly. I live at 171 Ball Street. I have two grandchildren that take care of our chickens. I was part of the going around the whole village here and gathering signatures. Upon gathering all these signatures, there's a house that comes off of 15 behind Jets here. The very first house on the left, the gentleman signed my petition over there. He says, my grandmother owned this house. I'm redoing this house, but my grandmother had a cow and chicken sitting here in the backyard. And just to tell you, it took us 3.5 hours one day and 3.5 hours another day to cover the village. And I had not one complaint about chickens, just so you know. So my thing is, please keep our chickens.
Thank you.
My name is Lori Ann Bassetti. I do not live in Ortonville, but I have partaked in your business from Hamilton's, where I have picked up chicks. I've had a daycare in the past for over 21 and a half years, and I'm also part of the 4-H that they sold birds for kids to raise and auction off, but we also had a petting, allowing people with special needs and elderly that needed to have connection with the animals in therapy. Birds have been around, chickens have been around for over 10,000 years. And the therapy alone, just watching chickens peck the ground or watching them just be so calm, is something that they have a reconnection. Therapy in the dictionary tells you that it's something that they need to, not necessarily chickens, but any type of animal can connect with something. There has to be some type of connection to reach therapy. When the chickens that I've started with, younger and older, just something as simple as making them realize that the combs and the wattle of a chicken is the same as the rubber on the same feeling, as the rubber on the bottom of the sole of your tennis shoes. They never realize, because they look at them from far away, they don't realize that was a connection. And when they do make that connection, when you see kids with Down syndrome, or you see ones that have special needs where they're really frantic, that calms them down. Chickens are a therapy animal, and every day you're hearing more and more people have chickens in their house.
10
Some
seconds.
of you might last. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I just get up about, we work the way, okay. I'm old, so it's gonna be hard for me to walk a minute. I get better as I go. My name is Gail Trials. I'm not a resident of Ortonville. I live in Groveland. We've been here since 1972. And I have lots of chickens and turkeys and stuff because we're out in the country, away from the village. I've worked at Brandon schools for over 20 years, and I used to bring my turkeys to school around Thanksgiving, and we'd let them roam the courtyard, and the students would come out with their teachers. And I was surprised to know in this day and age that children had never seen a turkey. They called them chickens. I love your chickens. It shocked me and it made me kind of sad. And I remember one little girl that was blind, and when she touched the turkey, she just got a smile all over her face. And they would also, again, I'm talking about the turkeys, I never took a well, I did take a chicken to school. But they could feel the warm feeling of the little rubbery things like chickens have. And I have a book the school made for me when I took a chicken to school, and the teacher made a book out of it, and the kids all said they loved him, they wished they could take him home. He got in the crayons, and it was a joyful thing. The kids enjoyed it. And I also grew up in a little town, I think smaller than Ortonville, called Franklin Village. It's gotten kind of snobbish there now, and they allow chickens. Now that's Franklin Village, believe it or not. Yeah. I have a couple roosters that were ousted from Franklin because my girlfriend, they got them as babies and shouldn't know what they were. But I'm just saying, what is happening out here? Are we do we need an association like Bloomfield subdivision? If you get weeds in your garden, they give you a notice to get rid of them?
10 seconds.
I'm done. I just wanted to say, I love your chickens.
Thank you, Gail.
And they eat lots of bugs and ticks, by the way.
Thank you.
Our dogs haven't had ticks. We've lived here since 1972, and we've had ticks on our dogs twice because the chickens eat them. So that's all I wanted to say.
Hi, my name is Sarah Hamlin. We recently moved to the community just over a year ago, and one of the things we really wanted, we have 2 children that are 3 and 5, and we really wanted them to experience having chickens and the responsibility that comes with it. My nieces and nephews have them, and it's been 2 years that they've been here, and it's just amazing. The responsibility and seeing that, their food comes from these animals, and I really would love to have that for my children.
Thank you.
Sir, ma'am, did you
Sarah,
say-
question? Question?
Did you say you're a resident or a town?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm Roy Langoff. I am a resident of the village and also a business owner. I own Village Funeral Home. And I'm probably the one guy you would think I'd be against chickens. I had chickens next to the funeral home for 7 years, and I never had an issue with them. And to feed off of this young lady's therapeutic, it was a phenomenal diversion for families as they looked out, come from other communities, as they looked out and saw the chickens next door, and quite surprised in the village that there would be. But it was a great diversion for them to see that. So I am in support of chickens, and I miss my free eggs.
I'm Caleb Welch. I'm a Brandon High School freshman, and we live at 911 Evergreen Ridge. When I was littler, we owned chickens, and it was really good for me because I learned responsibility because I'd have to get up and I'd have to feed them every day and check and get their eggs, and then in the winter go out and clean their coop, which was hard because it was hard work. And I think that they do teach the value of hard work to kids and responsibility, and really teach them where food comes from, give them better understanding. So I think we should keep chickens.
Thank you.
She has to come up here too. My name's Carrie Pollard. I live at 185 Ball Street. I've also been up here several times to speak about the chickens. I did send you guys a packet. I believe you probably hopefully you looked over it and got a chance to read the facts.
What was your email address?
The CL Frosty, or might be the UPS store at 0365. It was the backyard chicken pamphlet.
I think I read that one. Mhm.
I just wanted to go over, chickens are becoming a new family pet, not just cats and dogs anymore. Families are getting more interested in having chickens as pets. They will come when they're called. You can pet them. You can give them baths. We bathe ours. 4-H kids bathe theirs to show them at fair. You sit on your lap. They love the affection just as much as dogs and cats or any other animal. And they give you love just as much as they love to receive it. There's a blogger, Kathy Shea Maureen. More than 1% of all U.S. households now raise chickens. The USDA estimates that by 2019, urban chicken flocks will be increasing by 400%. Those are facts. I also have some extra papers if you'd like to look at what I have some references, websites that I pulled this information off of if you'd like to have those handouts. I can give those to you. Thank you. Mike, do you want to say something? She would like to say she'd like to keep her chickens.
Elaine Gloniak. I live on Groveland Road, and I'm not a resident, but I've had chickens for probably 39 of the 40 years we've lived there, and all the kids showed them at 4-H. And just to say that I love the manure for my garden, my organic garden, and I had to fight the kids off because I love cleaning the barn. I do. I take it out in wheelbarrows and I just portion it out and, feed my soil. And right now, I only have 4 layers. The children are all gone, excuse me. And they come up on the deck and I feed them in the house. I have yet to buy them diapers. And I have one 17-year-old goose. I didn't know they lived that long, and she's feeble like I am. And I just tend her, I'm a caregiver for her. And I almost went as a Halloween costume last year as a Mother Goose, but I was a little too involved because I didn't have a diaper. This was at a party, mind you. But I just wanted to voice a pro for keeping the chickens.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, really? Yeah. I don't know, she's ancient, and her mate had a pig that was like in her bone. So they are pets, I'll tell you.
Hello, I'm Carrie Welch. I am a village resident. I live at 911 Evergreen Ridge. Caleb's my son, Joyce, my daughter, my son Elijah, and this is Zach. This is a turkey, but hey, we were,
Close.
we were going
Close enough.
You want to say how old you are?
10. I'm about to turn 11.
Can you tell them the name of your chickens?
I think one is named Honeycomb.
Which one do you want? Okay, so one of my other sons who couldn't be here tonight wrote a little poem. Let us keep our hens, they'll stay in their pens. Please don't take our children's pets away. We don't need a rooster, just gentle egg boosters. With breakfast, our kids start their day. We only need 6, and we won't play any tricks. Just respectfully, we plead and implore. Don't break up our family, just let us go, and we promise to keep our flocks small. We won't let them roam, they'll all stay at home. Friend who we keep safe and warm, help us stay together like birds of a feather, so we may fly back to our roost, our pals in their coops, all happily clucking together. And that's our little thing to say that,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
First of all, I have to apologize. I'm kind of congested. But I'm Joyce Welch. I'm a junior at Brandon High School. I also live on 911 Evergreen Ridge. As Caleb said, I grew up with chickens. I had one special rooster that I grew up with, and when he died, I was probably like 11, 12. It was very hard for me because it was like a pet. He wasn't just it wasn't just a farm animal that was just there. It was a part of our family, and our chickens are very important to us, and they're a good sense of responsibility for my younger brothers. And when we had them as chicks, it teaches you to be gentle. It teaches you to be kind, because you have to learn to be kind and gentle with things that maybe it's hard to understand, but basically I don't think we should get rid of the chickens, because that would break a lot of hearts.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
My name is Chris Harris. I am a sales manager at Hamilton's of Ortonville, downtown here. Part of our livelihood is selling chickens in the spring. The chickens in our village are important, as our young gal has said, for the children to have as pets, to learn responsibility. But from our point of view, from Hamilton's, we support the 4-H. And 4-H is an important part for a lot of these young people, and part of that is raising chickens to bring to market and have responsibility and help them with their college tuition in the future. The ordinance, as it reads, needs to be revamped. You know, I think we've learned that Ortonville, Royal Oak, Ferndale, many communities are now becoming urban farms, small community farming units, because everyone wants to get back to nature, get their roots again. I think having 6 chickens is a fair amount. Containment, yes, no roosters to wake people up at the crack of dawn, but the long and short of it, people need to have something to draw them together again. And I think the families that have the chickens and children and 4-H, this is where we need to start getting our community back together again, to have everyone work together. I know of a few of our customers that come in that have the chickens. They say, when I have extra eggs, I donate them to St. Anne's for the people that can't afford them. Is this something we want to kibosh? I don't think so. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you all. Item 10 on our agenda is the village manager's report.
Thank you. In your packet, I have a couple of things, and then I have added one. First of all, a couple of meetings ago, actually, Trustee Bryce requested quotes for the village solid waste removal. Asked that we take a look at that. We currently have one 8-yard container at the Department of Public Works. We have a 2-yard container behind the village offices, and at the DPW, we also have 2 90-gallon totes for recycling. I contacted five different local companies that service our village. I received a response from only 3 of them, and in your packet, I put down the monthly service fee. At first glance, the apparent low bidder was community service, and what they offered was a smaller large container, the 8-yard container. They offered a 6. They're slightly lower in price, but it's important that we have that extra 2-yard capacity. So my recommendation is that we stay with our current provider at this time, and possibly next summer go out again and take a look at it and see what we can drum up. Then also a resident came in my first meeting back in regards to Ball Street and it being very dark between James Street and Narren. We took a look at it and contacted DTE, asked them for some ideas, and they come back with a quote to add a LED light to the approximate the middle pole on Ball Street between James and Narren. And the cost of that would be $430.36. And I would, that is on there, I approve that, and we put that on the schedule, and I'm hoping to have that done probably within a month before it gets too dark. Then the last thing, which my request seems to be for like 7 years in a row now, we have Halloween in the Village on the 31st, and at DPW we have the bonfire, and we have what is was called a council greeting with donuts and cider. So I requested any of the council people that want to come out on Halloween and visit with some of the trick-or-treaters and kids. And I can tell you a little story. My first time here, I thought, what in the heck am I got myself into here? And we typically have between 600 and 700 people come through there. You go to pick up 26 dozen donuts, and you know, you just have a new appreciation for that, and the kids and the trick-or-treaters and the costumes. I've had a lot of help in the past from Kathy Thurman, from various council people, and for that I'm very happy. This year I will not be there, and maybe we'll have a new manager here. And I would request that you take that time out. It lasts about 45 minutes, and it is just craziness. If you ever poured 800 cups of cider, it's something you just need to put on your bucket list. And that is pretty much else, unless you have questions directly for me right now. That's what we're doing.
So again, John, the waste treatment or the waste removal is for the village buildings only?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's for our pickup.
This is a monthly rate.
Yeah.
And so we're currently paying $130?
$130 a month.
Okay.
Yes. That's for weekly pickup of all the containers.
Any other questions?
How about the DTE lights? Have we received that yet? Since Keith's not here, I'll represent.
Yeah, I believe, I don't know if the council tabled that or if they just put it off till a later
We did
But you
table
were
it.
waiting
Tabled
on
it.
the,
audit.
Yeah.
When you wanted to see what the fund balance was?
Mhm.
we
And
didn't
nothing more has
receive the
been done.
report. You were waiting, in a couple weeks DTE was giving it to you. And
No, I reported that
Received.
we did get that.
Oh, okay.
And it was, maybe it's the meeting that you missed, it was 26, 21? I'm sorry, I'm looking at the clerk. I don't remember the exact number. It was to replace all of the lights. Beth, maybe you know? You remember the figure that DTE gave us? To change out all of the lights, the mercury vapors in the village. I believe there's 92 or 96 of them, replace them all. And the payback on it was only, I think, 2.5 years, and that's pretty good. But it is a substantial, it's about $20,000. And they're prepared to start that in the spring if we so desire. We just have to sign it and send it back, and they'll replace all 96.
Part of the reason for delaying is that we wanted to have a capital improvement plan in place.
Right. Okay, I remember that now.
So, and that delay was not going to affect their ability to start it in the spring.
Right, we're on the list, just like we already approved it and that, and we had contact with McKenna, who's doing the master plan, and the planning commission will start. They're gonna do a presentation to them at next month's meeting, which is November.
Has there been a change as to whether or not we should formally approve it? Right away, approve the project, because we did not approve it.
Right, it was not officially approved to start. No, right now, we're on the list, and we're okay. We need to keep in contact with them, and they have us, on the list. They don't have a signed contract from us yet, but we're on their work list that they'll put together in the spring,
So
early spring.
What is the time frame as your recommendation to?
I would think next month you
Next
should
month?
probably approve it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, John, one other thing, if I remember, I thought we questioned the amount of lumens these lights put out. LEDs are different than the.
We
so
did, and I asked him that, but I don't remember getting a response. Liz, did you see the response?
I'm just fearful of
I
lighting
did
someone's
email
living
him
room
that,
up
and I
with
will-
these things.
yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
Beth has an answer.
Well, on page 6 of your minutes, it talks about the DTE streetlights, LED conversion.
Right, but
Which
does it
minutes?
say the lumens?
Right.
That the
The-
lights,
the
the new lights
25th.
are gonna get?
September 25th, in this tonight's packet.
Yeah,
I don't think it says the
It didn't
lumens.
have the lumens.
That's why I was asking on.
So I will,
It said the quote is forthcoming, and that was the
Right.
last meeting.
Right.
So.
we have, yeah, we have.
For Wall Street, though.
What page was that, Liz?
6.
Beth, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's Dan's question again.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, so we're still waiting on that answer as well.
Yes, I'll email him again tomorrow.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any trustees that are willing to step up to the plate on Halloween? Of the 5 of us here?
I did it last year. I might be able to do it again this year.
Okay.
Are we passing out candy?
You're passing out candy?
Don't want to shut my light off.
Anyone else?
You need more? Okay, I will.
Okay.
I'll help out too.
It's
Are you passing out
typically
candy at your
about
place or
6
not?
to 8 people.
Got enough people passing out candy.
Is a good number to have. They go through pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to start after trick-or-treating is over, but what they do is they have, people have routes, and normally the little ones get there first, and then it's just done.
What time?
The key, though, for success to have everything ready is to have a lot poured prior
Right, you
to them
have
coming in. If you
300
start
or 400
late,
poured.
you're gonna be a one-armed bandit for a long time. So the key is to get the tables full, with glasses full, prior to them showing up.
What time would
so.
you recommend that they arrive?
Probably 6:30, and just start pouring.
And sirens go off at 6? And
And where do we go? To the
Six.
village
I
offices?
believe it starts, the siren goes off at 6:30.
6 or 7.
Is it at the village offices?
Oh, the
DPW.
Garage.
The yard.
Yeah, and then they have the
Okay.
bonfire on the outside, or in the front there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for your help.
All right.
Under new business, we have an audit presentation by our auditing company, SK&T PC.
My name is Jordan Smith. I'm a manager with Stevens, Krinovic, and Tucker. Amanda Garber was the lead auditor, and she really wanted to be here tonight and had other things she couldn't get out really too much. So I'm here to present your financial statements to you. I believe the board should all have 2 things in front of them, the actual financial statements themselves and then a presentation packet. I'm going to go through the presentation packet as opposed to the actual financial statements, which is what gets provided to Department of Treasury as required. If you want to flip to the first page of the presentation packet, it should have letterhead on top and then independent auditor's report. Anything with numerical letter number at the bottom, Roman numeral number, is right out of the financial statements presented or provided to Treasury as well. So a lot of the stuff's the same. There's a few graphs and stuff that's not in the actual financial statements. Either way, this letter is the whole purpose of an audit. At the top of the next page is your opinion paragraph. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities discreetly presented component unit in each major fund of the Village of Ortonville as of June 30, 2017. That's a clean, unmodified opinion, the best possible opinion, all in accordance with GAAP. There is nothing better to get than that opinion. That's what everyone's looking for. I didn't say, but
opinion's kind of a broad word, man. We're talking about an audit, but when you talk about opinions, could you kind of elaborate on opinion, what opinion means?
our opinion is to verify that the dollars provided in the general ledger are correct and accurate, and people may rely on them. Our job is not to find fraud. It is not to give an opinion on internal controls or things like that. If we notice anything, which we did not, we would let you know. There's a few findings, recommendations that we have in the back, and I will go over those at the end. I don't know if that answers your question. But it's to opine on the actual dollars that the township, not the township, you're a village, that the village expended and had remaining at the end of the fiscal year, and the year ended June 30, 2017. So I'll get into a few of those and just a quick description of them.
All right.
Talk about what we focus on. So we look at a lot of things, but one of the things, balance sheet, it should be page 3 at the bottom, says balance sheet in all capitals towards the top. One of the main things we look at is your fund balance. And specifically that general fund is what I'm going to focus on. That third number from the bottom, $320,000, that's the unassigned fund balance. The board can decide to use it however they want. And one of the things we look at is that over your annual expenditures. So $320,000 is your unassigned fund balance, not restricted for anything like major local streets, which are restricted for streets. But your expenditures for the year were $387,000. So it's that, and then the assigned for subsequent year expenditures comes to about $380,000, which is 95% of what you expended for the year ended June 30, 2017. That is a very healthy fund balance. It's a good situation. GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, recommends about 2 months of operating expenditures be in that unassigned fund balance, which is about 17%. We usually say as accountants, be conservative, aim for 20% or better, and you guys are at 95. Very healthy situation. Last year you were at 92. Flipping to the next page, you'll see two graphs. Top one is a 5-year projection. Blue is the revenues, red's expenditures, and yellow's the fund balance. And you can just kind of see how it's moved along, changed. You added to fund balance during fiscal year 2017. Again, positive situation. And on the bottom there, it kind of shows you that unassigned fund balance and how it's fluctuated, gone up and down throughout the years. You were over 100% in 2014, dropped back down, but still very healthy situation over the past 5 years. Going to the next page, page 5 at the bottom, and then statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. This is for the year ended June 30, 2017. Your revenues were up about 3.5% over fiscal year 16. Largely, you guys got building permits for a few things that came in, and then state share revenue across the state's been up this year. So it was up for you guys for the village, about $7,000. Expenditures, however, positively was down about 4.5%. So expenditures were down, less vehicle maintenance for public works, and then the sidewalks, not as much planning and construction was done on those. About $17,000 drop, which is almost exactly what you guys dropped during the year in your expenditures. So it had to do with public works. Going to the next page, some people like to see the 2 pie graphs, revenues on the top and expenditures on the bottom. So revenues on the top there, how your revenue that you guys take in is split up. Property taxes and personal property taxes is about 60% this year, whereas 62% last year. Intergovernmental, state share revenue, Metro Act funds that come through was 31% this year and 30% last year, and then the rest is everything else you guys get. Expenditures on the bottom, very stable year over year for the most part. General government was 45%, and then public works was 33% this year. It was 38% last year, but just moved to other functions as it was reallocated where you spent it. So I talked about findings or recommendations that we have. One of the things last year, fiscal year 16, we had 4 recommendations. This year there's down to 2, so that's a very positive sign there. The 2 that we still have this year, excuse me, segregation of duties. Basically, one person should not be able to control the entire cycle, being able to use multiple people use the same cash drawer, deposit stuff at the bank, not review it, stuff like that. So just some of those internal controls, segregation of duties. People may not do it, but they have access to do it. So those are some of the things we look at. And then on the second page there, written policies and procedures. These are just recommendations, solid accounting procedures that we recommend every government adopt a policy, give management oversight and view of what they should be doing. Any questions I can otherwise attempt to answer?
Yes. We've been trying to find out, what percentage of our fund balance we should actually be having. So what did you say the percentage that we should keep on hand is?
GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, recommends 2 months of your annual operating expenditures, give or take any big projects and other things going on. So, I mean, it's the easy example I always do, but if you're planning to save up and build a brand new building or something, you may not want to finance that, so it may be better just to save up and, expend it out of cash. So you might end up with 200 or 300% over like a 3-year period because you're saving up for a big project. So recommending normal operations is about 2 months of your annual expense, give or take cash flow and stuff like that. Taxes usually only come in once or twice a year, depending on.
And you're saying that's if you don't have any big expenditures coming up in the near future. Okay.
And we're right now at 95% of our budget with our
At June
fund
30,
equity.
At June 30, 2017, you're at 95% of your annual expenditures for the year ended June 30, 2017.
So we have almost 1 full year's worth of
Correct.
of
A little
fund
under.
equity.
I don't know
Little
exactly
under.
what that is, but I'd say that's probably a little over 11 months is my guess.
Which equals $436,318.
436.
Or no, that's not right.
No. So your annual for the general fund.
That's 540,000. That's total. 540,783. 540. That's a total fund balance.
Oh, total fund balance is 540,783.
Yeah.
I was focusing on general fund because the other funds are restricted, and your general fund is your unrestricted, unassigned dollars. So specifically, I was taking your assigned for subsequent years expenditures and the unassigned, because assigned for subsequent years expenditures, the board, when they adopted the original budget for fiscal year 17-18, at the time they adopted the budget, believed revenues would be under expenditures by about $60,000.
So you're suggesting that the average recommended is 17 to 20% of the unassigned? Fund balance?
Correct. Or in that case, right there, because it's assigned for subsequent years, it'd be 20% of probably about whatever that is, 283,000, 284,000 there, between the assigned and unassigned.
What other municipalities do you have, and what do you find to be their fund equity ratio?
It really depends.
Where else do you do?
We audit everything. 250, 300 governments and nonprofits throughout the state. Probably 80% of those or more are governmental entities. So, I mean, you're talking school districts. Most of them we audit are less than 10%. You're talking cities. They're somewhere between less than, like, say, 10% and 25%. You're talking townships. It's often 200-300%. You're talking villages. I've audited some villages that are 120 or 200%. I see others that are 20 or 30. It's a mixed bag. And I said townships 200-300%. I've seen some that are in a deficit too. A lot of it is on how the council and management has done things the past 20 years. Were they ready? It may sound bad, but were they ready for 2007, 2008 recession and so on, and coming back or not? So. And then also some of them, I know 2 townships the past 2 or 3 years that had at one point 500% fund balance because they were building buildings, but now they're under 100% because they built nice buildings, and it really is a situational item.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you for your time. Appreciate your efforts.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
And thank you for those answers. We need them.
Just for the sake of conversation, our line item budget for this particular budget, annual budget service was a total of $8,900 this year. So thank you again, sir. So we need a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the audit as submitted by Stevens and Krkonovic and Tucker, PC, as presented.
Support.
The motion by Councilman Eschman, supported by Councilman Bryce, to approve the audit as submitted by Stevens, Krkonovic, and Tucker, PC, as presented. Any other discussion, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 12 under old business is OTV cable budget. John?
This is the annual budget report and request from OTV that they present to the township and to the village for their operational funding for 2018. There is no major purchases that are in line or requested at this time. It's normal operating, and that fund also is carrying a fund balance of $295,000. So they're poised for purchase equipment in that as needed. But at this time, we try to carry at least $100,000, and right now it stands at $295,000. And this is the operating budget requested. The township has approved this budget.
So we have with us tonight our OTV director, Greg Norman. Thank you for being here, Greg. Do we have an immediate plan, capital improvement plan, expenditure plan for new equipment?
The equipment we have works fine. Will always be obviously standard definition for anything we record here because that's what Charter provides as a signal. The next level of equipment is expensive, and if we buy some of the stuff that's currently out there for the kind of cost, it looks like you're doing some kind of a broadcast from the Beirut somewhere. So we're probably a year away from going wireless. We were talking about the last year about going wireless, so all these wires you see would not be running. But the stuff just isn't there yet from a cost perspective. If you want to pay $50,000, that's fine, but we're not doing CBS. And so we think that at the moment, probably midsummer, we may come back to you and ask for some wireless stuff. And at that point, the only real large capitalization would probably be something in the tune of about $60,000. But right now, our equipment is adequate, more than adequate. We have as much as anybody has, and we can do everything. We've increased this fall from last fall, we're up about 20% and actually doing more stuff because we've got more kids working. That's one of the things that we've been able to do as well, so pretty happy with that.
So your goal, equipment-wise, is to spend $60,000 more?
Well, when I feel comfortable enough that wireless is at a point where it's cost-effective for the kind of station we have, we would consider that. That might be 2 years away. It was going to be all set a year ago. Right now, I have no permanent plans. I don't have any short-term plans of buying anything other than maintaining what we already have. The one thing that you have to consider, at least from our perspective, is that when we were in the high school, we used to buy a lot of equipment that the students in the broadcast classes would use. I also have high school students running as our staff, so I'm more apt to buy a $2,500 camera rather than a $25,000 camera. If it drops, I can replace it times 10. Now, we got great kids and from that, but we still have, sometimes we have high schoal kids. So when we put things away, so from that standpoint, I'm very happy with the equipment we have at the moment. And if you notice on everything online now, on our OrtonTelevision.us is all HD. So we can't do the meetings in HD because of our equipment, but everything else, all the football games, all the meetings, anything we have that's away from this building is all HD and all put up online. And last I checked, I think we had about 450 programs, 500 programs have been downloaded to YouTube over the last year.
How would you say your quality of audio is as of late? I know at one point in time it was woefully inadequate.
Yes, and over the last 30 days, we have been with Charter 4 times. Kathy's made several calls. There's a condenser someplace between here and Oxford that they're trying to figure out how it works. Sometimes we have a problem with it going down. And this is if you look at our logs, our sound is fine, but we only can send a signal out and it has to come back to us. So the last up to the last 30 days, we haven't had a problem. We were out of complete sound for 3 days about 2 weeks ago, and they got on that, and we seem to have had a problem since. But we have actually had a couple of problems over the last 30 days.
Just out of curiosity, I'd like to have a show of hands of people that watch OTV and find the audio to be acceptable at this point in time. Anybody that is still having difficulty with the audio? Yeah, you have to have cable, yeah.
I don't have cable.
Okay.
Again, 90% of our programming that is on cable is now on computer, is on Ortonville television.us. So everything, this meeting will be on and downloaded to YouTube, but probably usually, John, we get your stuff usually by noon the next day. So we try to keep it pretty current from that perspective. Some things we have no control over, and I think if you talk to Oxford, they have this, Oxford and us share the same
head
outlet facility, their little building, and I can tell you the Oxford folks sometimes it's, but you have to also understand that the wiring that was put in for cable television was put in 1975, and they take your money. Again, I don't work for them. They'll take the money, but there's the upgrades. They're doing a better job, but the wiring that's been there has been there for a long time. I'm not using that as an excuse because I can walk you over and show you. You can put your telephone or put your iPhone up right now and look at, and the sound is fine. So what we're broadcasting, but when we broadcast a live stream, that's directly from us through the computer right to so we're bypassing Charter. So the easiest test is look at Ortonville television.us and then turn around and watch the same program on your television. And so some of our sound issues have obviously been with.
Since Councilman Skornick is not here, she typically will ask the same question, and I'll ask it on her behalf in her absence, and that is a proportionate share between what the township receives in the village franchise fee. How has that arrived?
That's a question you'd have to ask Kathy because she's the only one with the formula. I don't delve into the process of, I give her what we need for budget, but the formula as to where money comes into the primary stockholder, primary bank holder, in this case it's the township. You and the township arrive at what the formula is, and then
in the franchise agreement.
In the franchise agreement, and then at that
25 years
point,
ago.
I would report to Kathy and to John at the end of the year to go over budgets and those kinds of things. So we have nothing to do as far as our staff goes with that formula. I wish I could answer that question better for you. I don't deal with that.
I mean, it's based on the percentage of village customers and compared to the percentage of the township customers, and then they decided on a rate that each customer would bring in, and the village gets that proportion or that portion of that formula, and that was derived 25 years ago, I would think, when the cable franchise agreement was signed. It's probably been even renewed since the first one. So
Those formulas are pretty standard throughout government. I mean, if Brandon Township, if Oxford Township dealing with Oxford, the village, they all work that. The formulas are pretty based on your actual subscription, which is how we end up with franchise dollars. We only get, that's why our number fluctuates, because sometimes the number's high if there's a lot of folks buying cable. Lately, the numbers dropped a little bit overall because obviously there's a lot of folks going to open air because they think that cable is too expensive. I don't think that's a secret to anybody.
There's a drop in cable customers.
It is expensive.
I don't have any further questions. Anyone else?
No, it looks good.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks.
Need a motion?
I make a motion to approve the 2018 OTV cable budget as presented.
Support.
Support.
A motion by Councilman Bryce, supported by Councilman Sleva, to approve the 2018 Ortonville TV cable budget as presented. Questions? Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Item 12B under old business, we have a presentation on raising chickens. And what form is this presentation going to take?
We're just going to
Written?
talk to you.
Written? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
This is Susan Hagan, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and she works with the 4-H in homesteading.
Right. I live at 2400 Perry Lake Road in Brandon Township. We moved out this way about 4 years ago, just to give you a little kind of experience of where I'm at as far as chickens. In 2013, we purchased our property, we started building, and we bought chickens. I soon found out my son fell in love. At that point, we joined 4-H. I started and became the adult leader of the 4-H Poultry Fanciers of Oakland County. Since then, I am now with a friend starting a 4-H homesteading group. The idea is that we want to bring all aspects to farming to our children. We're feeling like our kids are very disconnected from where their food comes from, and to teach the kids life skills. Why I was putting up an education board, if you don't know, 4-H had a National 4-H Week, and they put bulletin boards around at various businesses. I was at Brandon Library putting up one for my daughter's goat club. You might have seen it there. I was approached by Sarah Alt, A-U-L-T, the assistant manager there, and she says, we have been looking for somebody to teach our community about chickens. And we've been doing this for years, and she says, I understand what's going on in the village, I get that, but she says that doesn't stop people from wanting to learn, and that my job is to educate through the library. She asked me to put together a meeting. We will be doing a class in your library on February 24th. There'll be myself and a few other 4-H families to educate your community about raising chicks. They are very fragile, and how to keep them, raise them, and how to be responsible chicken owners. Your community has a great interest in being responsible owners of chickens, but also they do not want to irritate their neighbors, so they want to know about everything, how to contain them, how to feed them, how to care for them. And Brandon Library is answering that call. I gave to you today 3 really common myths, I want to call them, about chickens, and I can approach any other questions you have as well. There's a misconception about disease. The avian flu is not transmitted to humans. As you all know, probably if you've been to the fair back in 2015, the avian flu hit this country pretty hard. Not one human being got any kind of illness due to the avian flu. Let's see, 2006, the Grain Report states, when it comes to bird flu, diverse, small-scale poultry is the solution, not the problem. CDC states on their website, there is no need at the present to remove any family flock of chickens because of concerns regarding the avian flu. Out of the 2015 incident, there was probably well over 90% of them were commercial businesses that even had biosecurity measures. The people were being washed when they came in, and they were being washed when they got out, and they were still having problems. What they discovered is because these animals were contained in large housing, they had large fans, and things from wild birds was literally being blown into their facility. So that's where they were getting it.
Once that virus is in a facility, it has no sun, it has no warmth, so it went rampant. The advantage of small flocks like the people here and why they didn't get them is because their birds are in healthy environments, they're being exposed to the sunlight, and they're being well cared for. So it was not a problem ever in small communities like this. And we can see it. Healthier birds produce healthier eggs, higher omega-3s. I mean, everybody loves their farm fresh eggs. The other concern was waste and odor. I went on Murray McMurray's website, and they have an author by the name of Patricia Foreman who stated one 40-pound dog will generate 3/4 of a pound of poop every day. 10 chickens will generate 2/3 of a pound every day, less than a dog. Unlike dog, chickens is valuable, high nitrate fertilizer. It is considered an organic matter, and in healthy soil, 40% of the healthy soil is organic matter. Those people can stick that into their garden and compost it. If they don't want to do that, they don't have a garden, they can do it like the dog owner, put it in the can and send it out. But they just, one thing I did want to say too is how often does a coop need to be cleaned? A lot of it depends on the time of year, how many birds. On average, I'd say once a week, every couple of weeks. But the thing is the reason it's an incentive to the owner to keep that coop clean is it keeps the birds healthy. Healthy birds, healthy eggs. It makes their job easier to care for them, and it keeps the eggs cleaner. The fact that chickens, in regards to flies, chickens eat flies. I have witnessed a cow laying on the ground and a chicken literally picking the flies around his face and eating them. I've seen my chickens, unfortunately, eat my honeybees. And I have also, since we've been on this farm, never experienced ever a tick situation. I've never had a tick on myself, my kids, my husband, or any of our animals, outdoor animals. It is, last year was supposed to be the worst tick season ever. I heard it on the news, what to do to prevent, so on and so forth. Never had a problem. I don't worry about Lyme disease. Predators. I understand a lot of times people think that chickens will draw predators. That is the last thing a chicken owner wants. They're going to want to contain that bird so predators can't get in. Hamilton sells little coops that can be moved around the yard and are all contained so predators can't get in. They don't want anything to attract predators. What attracts predators? Not chickens. It's wild bird feeders, pet food, gardens, fish ponds, bird baths, and trash. Will attract the foxes, the rodents, the raccoons, and the flies. My birds love field mice. They will go to town on a field mice. I've seen them do it on a garden snake. Small rodents stay away from chickens because chickens love meat, which is a lot of times people don't always know. There's no such thing as a vegetarian chicken. Okay. The reason they have, and the reason you know that, I don't ever understand why anybody would not contain their chickens to their best ability, because it takes, and never have a problem, because it takes 25 weeks to get that chicken to start laying eggs. That's 25 weeks of care, feed, work before they even give anything back to the family. They're not gonna be irresponsible. They don't want to start over. They really don't. Let's see. One of the things that when we built our house, my husband and I did not install a garbage disposal. Why? We have chickens. We put a bucket in our kitchen. We call it the chicken bucket. I walk out to that yard, and those chickens, I can get them to follow me anywhere because they know that bucket means food. We don't throw away food in our garbage, so we don't have dogs tipping over our garbage can. We don't have rodent issues. None of that. Chickens will eat absolutely everything that you eat, except for maybe citrus, maybe some peels, and the bones. They will eat the meat off of bones, but they will leave the bones. So we are probably the cleanest garbage of anybody. I just really think that what I am hearing here is, and I watched your video of families that brought their kids up. And I'll tell you, what I'm seeing is a community that wants to teach their kids. My heart just leaped when I saw those families saying, my kids clean the chickens, my kids do this, my kids do that. And a mom even saying, it's not my thing, but she's supporting her children. And that's what I do through 4-H. My son shows birds, not my thing, but I support him, and he does that. Parents here want to teach their kids where food comes from. I cannot tell you the stories that I hear, and I have experienced between the fair and 4-H events, people coming up to me, looking at a goat, and I am not kidding you, calling it a cow, calling it a dog, and one person even said, no, that's an exotic camel. Dead serious. People don't know where food's coming from. This is what people want to get back to. This is why you see the chicken numbers rising. It's a very simple way to fit in a small community without having a large animal. Farm animal, these chickens produce less waste and less headache than a dog. And that's basically what I have to say. I have any questions, just let me know.
A quick thing I just want to read here, and then I will let you guys ask any questions or make any comments you may have. It is a prepared statement, so forgive me. A community can be defined as a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common, or as a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. Ordinance is a tool to be used for the good of a community. The community, in our case, being a group of people living in the same place. For our community, both definitions can be applied. However, it seems that one ordinance in particular is not taking into consideration that this community has common interests and goals. An ordinance should be put into place and enforced to protect people's properties and property values. There should be reasonable restrictions, and the intent should be betterment of the community. The current ordinance, which bans chickens, does neither of these things. It is unreasonable to assume that members in a rural community such as ours should not raise chickens, and banning chickens does not make our community better. An ordinance with reasonable restrictions would include a maximum number of chickens allowed to keep from overcrowding. It would ban roosters for noise control. It would not allow free ranging to protect the property rights and values of neighbors. It would require that all coops must meet setback and building requirements the same as any other structure, again, to protect property values and the neighbor's property. These are reasonable restrictions that would allow these residents to raise chickens, would protect the neighbors, and provide for the betterment of our community. 8 of the 10 surrounding communities that I personally contacted allow chickens. 8 of the 10 of our surrounding communities.
And they are?
Of course, you had to ask. Let me get it. Most notably, and most equally thought of is Holly, who just upped their allowed number of chickens.
To what?
From 3 to 6.
From 3 to 6. I spoke with, and in my next
Is that the Village of Holly or?
Village of Holly, yes.
Right. Last year, they did the 3 to try it and then raised it to 6 this year.
Yes, and I will speak on that in a minute. Brandon Township, Atlas Township, Davisburg, Holly Village, Oxford Township, Independence Township, Clarkston Village, and Groveland Township all allow chickens. Those are just those surrounding Ortonville itself, as well as Burton, which I learned today, which kind of surprised me, but there you have it.
Franklin Village, too.
So the surrounding ones would be Holly, Brandon, of course, and Davisburg, Village of Clarkston, and Burton, and what about Goodrich?
I don't remember.
Atlas?
Goodrich Village does not, but Atlas Township does, to my understanding.
Was Hadley on there as well, or is that?
I did not contact Hadley or Metamora today. I should have, but I would say I am very confident, as my parents live in Hadley, that Hadley allows chickens, as well as Metamora.
Benton does.
So, that being said, if I could continue, please, I don't want to waste everybody's time tonight. 8 out of the 10 surrounding communities that I called allow chickens. This is not an uncommon practice for our area in rural northern Oakland County. Our rural character is why so many people have chosen to make our community home. And to infringe upon that lifestyle is not your job. Your job as council members is to uphold the lifestyle that makes our community unique. I spoke with the enforcement officer in a neighboring village, Holly, who said that he has 0 problems, 0, enforcing their chicken ordinance. He said that he treats the ordinance like any other, meaning that it is complaint driven. If he gets a complaint, he goes and visits those people to find out what's going on. He says 9 times out of 10 in this past year or so, if there was a complaint, he'd go and the people just were not educated on the ordinance well enough. They complied immediately. It was no problem. There's no difference in enforcement of this ordinance versus an enforcement of any other ordinance on the books. The state of Michigan is currently looking at passing 2 bills through the Senate, which I provided this evening. And if you read them, you will know that the bills would make it up to the state to allow or not allow raising of livestock. Would take that authority right away from the municipalities. The municipality would have let's see. The bills would create the Urban Agriculture Act and amend the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act to prevent local government from adopting or enforcing zoning ordinance regulating the raising of livestock. Tonight, we have shown that there's widespread community support, not just within the village, but in our neighbors as well. I personally have township neighbors on one side, village neighbors on the other. It's crazy to me that my neighbor on this side can have chickens, and my neighbor on this side cannot. We are asking for you to listen. 210 village resident signatures, along with 100 Save the Chicken signs throughout our community. Is that representative enough for you? We would like to ask for a motion to be made this evening, instructing the village manager to raise the ban on chickens and to draft an ordinance that would allow 10 chickens per household, ban roosters, ban free ranging, and require all coops to meet minimum setback and building requirements to be approved by the council. If there are any questions, then Susan can answer any chicken-related questions.
Is it true that Brandon Township's ordinance requires a minimum of 2.5 acres to have chickens?
Yes and no. That's not the wording in.
It's considered a Class 3 animal?
It's Class 3 animals, and it is based on the zoning. To be zoned RE, you have a minimum of 2.5 acres. That is true, but it's not based on the acreage, it's based on the zoning. Most properties in Brandon Township are rural estates, RE zoned. Those that are not are things like lake lots, the subdivisions. I think that's.
We were told,
much it.
we have 19 acres, we were told that if we separated any part of our property, it would have to be a minimum of 2.5 acres. We couldn't do anything smaller than that.
Correct. You cannot have
So there's not
an
many.
RE zone property less than 2.5 acres.
And
You
it's
can't
two-
create that.
It's 2.5 acres, and they allow you to have 6 chickens in Brandon Township.
25
25.
and 1 rooster for 2.5 acres. For every acre over 2.5, so once you hit 3.5, you can have 5 additional chickens. 4.5, 5 more chickens.
So
5.5.
for any less than 2.5, you can have how many?
Any less than you are not zoned rural estates.
So you cannot have any chickens?
Again, you're talking about Brandon Township.
Correct, I understand.
You don't have lots like that in the village. And we're not asking for 25 chickens.
But I mean, if you're on Perry Lake, around the lake out there, and you got a lake lot,
Mhm.
can you have a chicken or not?
if you're zoned rural estates.
Well, it
Just
won't
like
be.
in Oxford,
It won't be,
just
if
like in
you're a
Oxford
40-foot
Township.
lot, you won't have chickens.
Just like in Oxford Township, you have to be zoned agriculture. We don't have agriculture zoning in Brandon Township. Doesn't exist.
Okay.
All your zoning in Brandon Township is rural estates, is RE zoned. Agriculture is a permitted use in RE zoning, and therefore Brandon Township has no agriculture zoning.
I received an email last week concerning salmonella. And
Did you read the article where it says that you must wash your hands?
absolutely.
Yeah, that's how you keep from spreading that. That says right in the article, that's how you prevent that. You wash your hands. And I don't know about anybody else up here, but when I change my kid's diaper, I wash my hands. If I'm messing with chickens and chicken poop, I'm certainly washing my hands.
Salmonella can grow in any protein, and poop is a protein. Bed covers is protein if a child has a accident on their plastic covers.
And you can bet you're washing your hands after that.
And my kids come in the door, we got one right there for them. Built it right in the entranceway. No excuses.
So this article was all about, education or the lack thereof, especially from newbies who get a couple chickens at Easter, take them home and start raising them, people with no experience. So the educational process, is there a formal educational process either provided by Hamilton's or, I know the 4-H, the 4-H does it.
Brandon Library, February 24th, I will be glad to teach anybody
Okay.
who wants to be a chicken.
Not only that, Hamilton's and Tractor Supply does give you a care and maintenance when you get your chickens.
This lady
Two
and I
Oakland County
became
4-H
really good
directors right
friends.
here.
I think she was seeing me 4 times a week going, so your own resources within your own community are amazing. Hamilton's is amazing, Tractor Supply is amazing, the library is amazing, they're all proactive.
So,
we can remain that way.
do you guys have and forgive me for my ignorance on 4-H, is there a mentoring program? There you go.
4-H poultry fanciers.
And again, I go back to, it's no different than when you bring a new puppy home. You educate yourself as an owner. That's your job. When you bring a child home, you educate yourself as an owner.
I know a lot of dogs that end up in pound and people don't do the research on breeds, and they don't realize. My friend has a Great Pyrenees from Royal Oak, and she's now living in Davisburg because they didn't do their research. Chicken owners do their research. They're waiting at the library for us to do this.
Your child goes to a pond and picks up a turtle, and they can have that, that's why they outlawed the little home.
Salmonella.
Because kids would get salmonella waiting in their mouth.
It's not an exclusive thing to chickens.
No.
So this article, again, I'm looking at it as one resource, good, bad, or otherwise, and they talk about how, and I've seen it with other animals, people swap spit with dogs, they lick each other, and, they're saying specifically that people owning chickens should never do that. They should never they should never wear their shoes inside of the house that they wear out in the areas of the chickens. I mean, so there are some issues.
Do you walk through your backyard with dog poop and walk in your house? I don't.
Yeah, those are actually.
I take my shoes off.
I will say in regards to
I'm just
therapy,
playing
not
devil's
sure if
advocate
you're-
here.
But
That's
the
all.
same article also says, the Center for Disease Control says salmonella is how many times more of a chance to get it from what you buy at the store than it is from your backyard chicken. Same article.
And they ask that you
also say
conduct,
wash your hands.
you contact the suppliers. There's only about 20 suppliers in the whole country for chickens, and make sure that they are tested for salmonella. So,
I do
so
that testing.
Hamilton's,
I was just going to say, can you please tell us where your chickens come from?
yes,
Please, Chris, tell us where the chickens come from.
Our chickens come from 2 hatcheries, Town Line and McMurray Hatchery. When they had the avian flu, their hatcheries were proactive in saying they checked the states they were sending their chickens to if they had an avian outbreak. They have bio standards at Town Line, you can't walk through. If you are going to tour, they have special boots for you to wear.
they're very proactive on how healthy their chickens come to you. And you have a plurum that says they're hatched, they're checked by a vet and so forth, that they send and say, they're ready to roll. It's up to you to keep them healthy.
Plurum, it's called Plurum salmonella, so it's a testing of, and I'm a certified tester. I test birds because when I was involved with the poultry club and doing shows with my son, I didn't want to wait in the line, so I got certified and I test birds for it. I've not had anything ever be positive, and I tested all the market birds, not from this year, but all the market birds from 2 years ago, and in 2 days I tested over 400 birds. Not one came back positive. And if they do, the state bets
Comments?
on it.
Questions,
Just go from
comments?
taking my test.
Council? Further questions?
I'm interested to find out why some council members are so against chickens. That's my question to you, because as I'm sorry, Cherie, is that how you- Cherie pointed out, not one person that she spoke with in 7 hours.
7 hours of walking with Carrie and our children.
There you go.
There were 3 kids, 4 kids. And 7 hours of walking through the village and talking with each one, not one person.
No.
They were really upset that this was, that we were being voted against this.
How many complaints have you had in the last year
On hens.
on hens?
John, how many complaints in 7 years on
Besides the one on
hens?
Kansas Court that just happened.
On
rooster,
hens,
and so is
not
the
on
other one.
roosters.
On roosters, on hens.
The 2 on Candace
one-
Court were roosters.
One roaming complaint since I've been here.
One roaming complaint. And we're asking that the ordinance
And you're making,
restrict free ranging,
to move out back into Bloomfield Hills.
as it does for dogs. We have an ordinance that you can't let your dog free range.
I mean, I came.
I don't think it's called the same thing. I like to free range my dog in my backyard. Kidding.
From a law enforcement perspective, we had one complaint, and that was because of the free ranging on Candace Court. That
And
was
those-
a complaint. We've never taken a complaint in the 3 years that I've been here in the village, other than Candace Court.
My understanding was those were roosters.
No, it didn't have anything to do with roosters.
It was all of
It was
them.
chickens.
Okay.
They were free roaming, free ranging.
The ladies who were here talking that night were talking about the roosters. That's my mistake.
The same lady was letting her dogs free range.
The same people had problem with dogs.
So the challenge in, when you compare against dogs, the comparison is that with dogs are either off-leash or they create problems. We have the backing of the Oakland County Sheriff's Department to come in and assist.
Okay.
But if there's ever an enforcement issue with chickens, we do not have that backing. And they would never respond to chickens.
And if you're like.
They would never respond to chickens. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct, and I've spoken on that numerous times. We are not going to be the chicken police.
Nor
That's
should
not
you
gonna
be.
happen. Now, as far as dog issues, we have written numerous tickets throughout the township as well as the village just recently. On occasion, I haven't put in the paper where we have written dogs at large. But
Chicken owners,
Yeah,
correct
we
me
are
if
not
I'm
going
wrong,
for
but a
chicken.
free-ranging chicken is not liable to be a danger to the community.
My insurance doesn't go up based on the chicken that I own. But it will based on if I get a pit bull.
Well, the question was how to enforce the ordinance. All of our ordinances
I
are
answered
enforced
that.
by,
The same way
The
I'm
manager.
enforcing it against some of these
we
people
don't
right
automatically
now.
call the police, we call the village manager to enforce the ordinances, and therefore, the procedure starts just like any other ordinance.
It's not any different, yeah, it's not any different than any other ordinance. I mean, you are more than welcome and encouraged to call and talk to the code enforcement officer in Holly Village, who said to me, none, there's no issues. When you talk to somebody, if there is a complaint on somebody and you talk to them, they handle it like then and there, within a day. And they have no wish to be in violation of the ordinance. Nobody, if you state no free ranging and coops must, they in fact in Holly Village, they have it, he said it was either $25 or $50, he couldn't remember. It's basically it's a zoning permit, It's different than a building permit, and what it says is that when you build a structure smaller than 200 square feet, you have to have a zoning permit to where, once you build it, the building director or code enforcement officer or whomever's in charge of that comes out, make sure you meet all setback requirements, make sure you meet minimum building standards, things like that, and you pass. Now, to me, that'd be a great thing for the chicken owners because they can say, yep, my coop passes. I should have no complaints, and if there is a complaint from the neighbor, guess what? My coop was checked out. The neighbors, great, they got their coop checked out. It meets all the requirements. There should be no question. It's a win for everybody. That's how you handle these things. You make them so that they, protect people's property and their property values while not placing unnecessary and burdensome ordinances on the community, which is exactly what this is.
Well, if there have been so few complaints, then what is
I haven't
the
actually,
issue? I
like,
mean, I don't understand.
I haven't heard a single complaint.
They have, chickens have not been allowed for years here.
They were allowed, though, under the Right to Farm Act,
They
which
were.
is how many of these people ended up with their chickens.
Right.
The
were
ordinance
allowed.
predated the right to farm, and the right
And the
to
Right to Farm
farm
Act
was there until 2.5
superseded.
years ago. The right to farm is back up with this Senate bill, and it will take control over everything. The bill will prohibit a local unit of government from adopting or enforcing their own provisions that regulate livestock in urban and suburban areas,
If you make these
unless they
people-
are consistent with the guidelines of the commission of this urban act.
If you
This
make
is
these
being
people
put
get rid of
forward
their
by our state.
chickens.
We're going to go back and say, we don't agree with what they're going to do. We're going to do what we want. We're going to take everybody's chickens away for a year or so till this comes into effect, and then everybody can have chickens again.
Then not
That's
only
not
are we
fair
paying,
for us.
not only are we paying
It's
ridiculously
going to
high
pass
taxes.
because what happened is they retracted the right to
causing them
farm, made a
financial
mistake, and now
distress.
they're putting it back in place.
Right.
They say right here, they are putting this back in place because they gave it to the locals, and the locals are just randomly
Abusing
doing
it.
different things, and nobody's consistent. So they want it back to the state level where it's consistent.
And
So
it-
what we have is 210 people saying in our community, we want our 7 people to keep their chickens. We have our planning commission recommending to us to have an ordinance to allow chickens. And here we sit, not listening to our planning commission nor our community. I'm getting frustrated, I'm sorry.
And not to mention, when this bill goes through, when this bill goes through, the 5 or 7 of you or whomever, you will be responsible for the financial burden that you put on these people. You've made them get rid of their chickens, their eggs, their coops, their feed, their everything. You know how much that costs? It's not cheap. It's not cheap to build a coop and to have the feed, the daily necessities for your chickens. It's not cheap. And then not a year later, they get to have them back when you could have just avoided the whole situation. I mean, that's ridiculous. And you were put in that seat to do better, and to do better for your community, and to represent them as a whole. And if this and this petition and those 100 signs out there aren't representative enough for you, then I don't know what to say. Have fun.
I have an enforcement question. I found it intriguing to see that there was a coop available to buy as a kit on wheels.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah, you move it around the yard so they
you move it around the yard, which means that you can move it closer to the line than what you should legally be doing, and there's no way to check it out. Just a question,
Oh, give me a break.
because it's poor.
What about enforcing the fine?
This is a question. I'm in favor of chickens, okay? So just give me a break.
How about if
Okay, I'm asking a question.
My husband built a very large one because we have meat birds, and we pulled it around our yard. Granted, we live in Brandon Township. We're not
And you don't have to worry about close neighbors.
Right, but
still
you
have
pull it
setback
around
requirements.
every day because you want the chickens to dig in a new area,
Right.
to fertilize that area, to
Sure.
find grubs and feed themselves. When we did that, I am telling you, the next spring, I could see the track where I took that coop, because everything was a bright, brilliant green from the fertilizer. They're not gonna keep it in one spot and let everything die. They're gonna keep it moving. It's the best thing they can do for their lawn. I mean,
And
it's
I
gonna
don't
fertilize
understand.
it and-
Yeah, I don't understand.
Well,
this
the side yard
thought or this worry.
setback issues as a planning commission, those side yards and the setback issues are based on a permanently installed building.
Right.
So when you're gonna have something that's movable,
A
You're
dog
talking about
kennel,
something
a
that is-
rabbit hutch, all the things that are in people's
talking about
backyards
something
now.
that's less than 50, like 20 square feet. I mean, you're talking about something so insanely small. But not to mention, I mean, what is this fear that these chicken owners just like want to piss off their neighbors? Like, I don't get that. You think chicken owners just routinely want to make their neighbors mad?
Well, we had that incident, we had that, listen to me now, Courtney. We had that incident 3 months ago with the people on Candace Court. They came and they snubbed their nose at us and didn't care when they let their chickens run, and they let their dogs run, and they did not care.
And we enforced it and it stopped. And that's one house out of the 600 homes in the village.
Well, no, we had one other house.
Yes, Greg.
That complaint reference to chickens on Candace Court, I was there. I'm the one that forewarned that homeowner. And if they would have stopped the free ranging, there'd have been no complaint.
Right off the bat.
That homeowner refused to stop the free ranging, and he refused to control those dogs. And we forewarned him on the dogs, and then we went back to the house and wrote him a gift certificate down to the 52 District Court for not putting his dogs under control. But if it wasn't for the chickens, if they would have contained those chickens, there would have never been a chicken complaint on Candace.
And we wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't be here.
Yeah, and I think probably 95% of us out there would go by the rules. But
And
you
so
get
we're-
people that are gonna snub their noses at us.
You're gonna have that no matter what you do. Going to have that no matter what you do. You can't, it's, for instance, as an example, your zoning board of appeals, okay, you have these zoning ordinances and regulations and building sizes and things like that that you have and you enforce them. If somebody has extenuating circumstance, your zoning board of appeals is there for them to find relief. Now, that is because you cannot write an ordinance that will serve 100% of the people 100% of the time. That is just the nature of an ordinance. Doesn't exist. You can't. So to say that we're not going to let chickens because 1 or 2 or 5% of the people want a free range, that's unacceptable. You're talking about 95% of the people want this, and they want to have chickens. They want to be responsible chicken owners. To say that those 5% or whatever made up crazy number you guys are thinking are going to ruin it for everybody else is absolutely insane.
Well, I'm not a crazy guy, and it's not made up.
And we're not making assumptions.
Okay,
We're not making all these assumptions.
Nameless complaints
Think we
and
are.
nameless
Courtney, please.
people, I mean, it's not a valid, unless you bring them here. Question, how many people here are in favor of chickens?
Courtney,
Yeah.
you're talking to you're supposed to be
let's-
addressing this board.
Fine.
Well, then
Wayne.
don't
Everybody else is talking, we slam it down on them. Where's the negative? Though you said, one of the two of you said at the last meeting that this isn't fair because those people who are against chickens have not had a chance to speak. Here we are, where are they?
Those are not my words at all, so I don't know.
I'm sorry, anybody remember that? Those
Okay,
people who are against chickens have not had a chance to
Okay,
speak
we're-
out. They have.
No, I
3
did not.
times
I
now.
did not say that.
I didn't.
Okay, hold it, one second. Okay, your presentation is concluded, and we thank you for your time. We'll take a couple of comments from the floor. Go ahead, Jeremy, come on up. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies.
You're gonna shut me down, but let everybody else do whatever they want. That's fine, Wayne.
Yeah, my name is Jeremy Cradden. You talked about enforcement, and I agree. There needs to be enforcement. If you have a problem, you need to enforce it. Let's be honest, okay? And let's talk about the 5% of people. If there is that problem, you need to give them a fine so John can deal with the problem. Very simple.
We do have a fine. We have a $100 fine, right, John? Yes. There's a $100 fine. Okay. And if you don't pay the fine, then it gets added to your tax bill. There's your answer.
So to put it in perspective, we have more people who signed the petition for chickens than we did for the sewer vote. The sewer vote came out 90-10. So right now we're batting a 95% approval rate to allow chickens and a 5% not. I would like to ask this council, what more do you need in order to allow this to continue.
Saying 5%, what was the number against? None.
There will be people in a vote that say, we have,
We're talking
of what we're
facts here. We
collecting.
gave you a factual number, so where's the factual
There are
number
people
against?
that have turned in a concern. There have been more than one, so
You're not giving
we
us
have a
numbers.
few people. We don't know, we didn't go to a vote. All I'm saying is a hypothetical. We did a vote when we only had 100 and something signatures for the sewers. It came out 90-10. We have more than those signatures for the chickens. It should be higher than 90-10. That's what I'm throwing out, a hypothetical situation. So what I'm asking is, what more does this board need than their community and their planning commission and their state to tell us chickens should be allowed in our village? That's what I'd like to know before we
Well,
continue on.
you need-
Fixing this problem, because
you need a
tomorrow's
mo-
the deadline.
You need a motion.
Okay. We've had a motion twice, and that hasn't gotten us anywhere. So the community has continued to ramp up and ramp up. What more is needed at this point? Because tomorrow's the deadline, and they're not going to get rid of their chickens. They're going to then apply for a permit through the state, which the state has a right to override us. But the state said you have to go to the local level first. So when the local level denies it and continues to uphold it, tomorrow then the petitions are filed with the state of Michigan. You then can file for a permit, you get permission back, yes or no. That's the next step. 3 out of the 7 people are considering putting their houses up for sale. I am not making that up. 3 of the 7 people. We're going to lose them over chickens. This is ridiculous. We've been doing this since April.
Well, they should go then if they're not.
Okay, so
Go. Leave.
you can make a motion. Anybody can make a motion.
But what is needed before I make the same motion again for a 3rd time? What will make this a better situation for everybody? That's what I'm asking.
Oh, because they want chickens.
Well,
They do.
I would think that the number would be 6 or less, or one
I
thing.
don't get the whole thing, I don't understand it.
And there'd be no as far as I'm concerned, there'd be no free roaming range and no.
But again, we're going to make all of these decisions with something like that, and then the state's going to come in and tell us they're going to decide that. So are we going to pay the money to a lawyer?
We already have.
No, we would have to pay the money to have this motion thing put in place.
John, would you, do you have that motion with you? John?
Last meeting?
No, you,
No.
you have a preliminary motion from our Attorney Gilner, do you not?
Yeah, you didn't have that at the last meeting.
You did not
No,
have that with you.
That ordinance was a basic ordinance for us to start with the planning commission and to move on to the council makes the final decision. The recommendation from me was no roosters, 6 chickens, no free ranging, no commercial sales of the chickens or the eggs, no slaughtering for profit, and it's just
Setback.
basic things like that. And then with the setbacks, and that would be setback from the property lines, not the buildings and that, or maybe both. So that's all stuff I don't have with me tonight, nor should you decide that tonight, because that should come in an ordinance form. It's read twice and goes through a period for, I would imagine, a public hearing and everything. So you're a couple of months away from an ordinance, but the thing for tonight is to stop the, or not, the enforcement, which tomorrow is the deadline, or today's the deadline, actually. So that's typically, the civil infraction ordinance that we adopted over 5 years ago has never gone past the phase of, or to the phase of citations. No one's ever gotten a citation. The people react in this community to the letters. They may not like it, but they react to the letters. The citations have never gone out. That's the next step. The citation will go out. That'll be given 5 days to react, and then the fine kicks in at $100 a day. That's what I'm looking at.
My thought process is, again, spending the money on creating a new ordinance when the ordinance is going to be made for us. I would recommend that we let it lie as is, based on what everybody's been following, which was the right to farm standards. Everybody has already been doing that. If a neighbor has a complaint, they can complain. Until that point, I don't see a need to waste money and time on this any longer. Let it lie. Please do not enforce, and then let the state follow what they're going to do, which is, again, the right to farm act right in their bill.
So,
So if the neighbor were to complain, how is there gonna be any teeth in that complaint being handled?
Is a free roaming animal? We're working on that ordinance. You can't have anybody off of your property, no matter what kind of
Group
animal.
ordinances, right. Right now, our
matter
ordinance
what.
specifically states dogs. Doesn't say any other animal but dogs. You can't free roam, free range dogs. It doesn't have nothing to do with chickens, ducks, geese, goats, or anything else.
But that was a separate ordinance, which we were already talking about working on.
Yeah, it's part of the same nuisance.
So if you defer having enforcement,
The problem with waiting and letting the state decide is that's what got us in trouble, was we had the Right to Farm Act and everybody was allowed to have chickens. Our ordinance stated that they couldn't, but the state overrode that and they got to have them. When the state passed a law that just said, no, from now on, villages and cities are going to be able to enforce, their own thing. We, at that time, probably, with hindsight, should have went and changed our ordinance at that time. Before there was this conflict, before there was an issue, but
we
that
didn't.
wasn't done.
but
And
we
that-
did not do that.
This is
We
how
did not
learn.
do that.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll go into the same thing. If we let the state do it again, we'll still have that bad ordinance. And if they flip-flop again, which seems to be something that they do, then we're gonna be in the same thing. So my recommendation is that we go ahead and do the ordinance. And I don't, that's my recommendation, if we're gonna do that.
And that's fair,
But
based on
but that's
local
gonna,
community
but that's gonna take
ordinances.
2 months.
But we can still
we can
stop the
stop
enforcement if
Because
the
of that,
ordinance is
that's
enforced.
reasonable. You don't wanna, if you know something's gonna change, you don't run out and write people a bunch of tickets for it.
well, it sounds like things are just really still up in the air. I mean, we don't know what the state's gonna do.
It's not in the air, it's obvious.
Well,
Okay.
what I'm saying is, we're not really sure what's going to happen in the future as far as the state's concerned.
This is, excuse me, but this is, the council is talking among themselves at the moment. Thank you.
Basically, I was talking to Bryce, but I was gonna make some really, I thought, well-meaning statements, but I'm not gonna make them now. So,
We have a guy in Groveland.
Okay.
I wasn't going to say anything negative.
Karen,
but-
you're talking to us now.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything negative at all. I was just trying to get some clarification.
Listen up, please.
But,
Can I have
I'm
your,
not- I'm not gonna
would you
say
please be
anymore.
quiet? Thank you. Go ahead, make your
No,
comment.
no, I don't wanna, I don't want any more I don't wanna talk about it. I'm
Well,
done.
these people are asking you to talk about it.
No,
We don't have
well,
to answer them,
You know, I would,
We don't
no,
have to answer them.
no, I'm done talking about it.
You should talk to us.
I know,
We
but
represent
you,
the,
I tried to ask Bryce, Trustee Bryce a question, and then I was laughed at, and it wasn't a negative question. I don't know if you assumed it was a negative question. I'm not really sure, but anyways,
Ask the question. We're here. This is a
I
public
just-
meeting, ask the question.
okay. All I was doing was, I said, it seems as though things are up in the air about this issue, as far as in the state,
At the state, yes.
at the state level, as well as our level. And, I'm just wondering, and then, Trustee Bryce was saying, well, we really shouldn't do anything right now as far as, creating a new ordinance. But I noticed that, Manager Lyons thought that we should, okay? Anyways, I was thinking that perhaps we need to give this some more thought. I'm certainly not wanting to separate chicken owners from their chickens. That's not has never been my intent. Truly, I only learned last month that we had these chickens, we had 7 people with chickens in the village. I live in a remote part of, I don't even see these things, I don't know. And so, but where I live is, surrounded by trees and wetlands. And honest to God, I really had no idea that 7 people had chickens in the village. I didn't think that.
Yeah, why do you think it's only 7? There's a lot more than that.
Well, I heard 7 come out tonight.
7, when
We
I
did
was told to
mention 7
enforce
tonight.
7, to make it clear, 7 is when I went out, drove around, and I seen them. And there was 2 others that I didn't see, but I knew they were there. So
I
they were
think
obliged
of
to
them.
get one too. So that's where the 7 came from in all fairness. to-
Okay, what's the
to
pleasure of the
trustee.
board?
All right, I would like to make a motion that I hope is a happy medium. I would like to make a motion to suspend the enforcement of the 1982 ordinance at this time. I would like to look into what our ordinance will be as we possibly change that, if you're not comfortable waiting until the state decides what theirs is. If you're comfortable with that, then I would like to wait until the state decides. If not, like I said, that's up to us as a board to decide whether we're going to create our own ordinance to protect us, no matter what the state decides, as John recommends, would be great. But my point is to suspend the enforcement of the 1982 ordinance enforcement. That's a double enforcement. And to look into creating enforcement. I think we need to research what our other local entities are doing and get some information from that. So that's my motion and justification all in one.
Okay, I'm going to ask another question.
Hold it. We have a motion to suspend the 1982 ordinance
Enforcement.
enforcement. And to look into what exactly?
The option of creating our own ordinance versus relying on the state. We have our recommendation from the lawyer. We have local communities to look into. So if council's pleasure not to wait on the state, I'm perfectly fine with that. My concern is the current ordinance. That's not where we'd like it to be as a community.
I can support that. So Liz, would you read that ordinance, or read that motion, please?
To suspend the enforcement of the 1982 ordinance for the chickens, and to look into what a possible ordinance would be,
Village ordinance.
village ordinance would be.
What would be best for us to create?
Do we want to put a time limit on the suspension request?
No, see, the thing is, if the state comes with that bill, and they say that we can't do anything, we'll have something that we had in place that allows it. Then if 3 or 4 years down the line, they switch it back, we'll still have something there that we can work with. That's the only reason why I recommend that.
If we put a time frame on, we don't know how long it's going to take us.
Well, it's going to be
create it,
next
do we?
month before you even get anything,
And then it has to be 2 months so that's the minimum. But what if we put a 6-month on there and we're still not
Right.
agreed on the
I think we
ordinance?
just need to move forward with it, suspend the enforcement and move forward. Because there's other things in that nuisance ordinance that we need to do.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilman Bryce, supported by Councilman Wills, to suspend the 1982 ordinance enforcement and to look into options, creating our own ordinance. Is that close enough? Okay. Other discussion?
So I'd like to discuss, and I was kind of expecting some type of motion like that to happen tonight. I was hoping that all 7 of us would be here to be able to voice represent all of our residents, all 1,100 plus residents. As you can see, there's minus 2 people here tonight. So I'm not going to support the motion that was read, but I would be willing to support a motion, something that says that we stay the decision on the enforcement up until I believe it would be December 4th. That would be 2 weeks after our next November meeting, where I would hope that all 7 of us can vote on it. Right now, we have a limited council. We can certainly vote on trustee Bryce's decision, but my thought is that we stay on the enforcement up until 2 weeks after our November meeting, and if this topic comes up again, and if there's another motion, then all 7 of us will vote on it.
So you're saying,
That's my discussion. That's my discussion. It has nothing to do with trustee Bryce's.
when you say
All right.
stay, you mean suspend?
Yes.
Until when? Dan, until when? To stay until when?
December 4th, it'd be 2 weeks after our next, our November's meeting.
So you're saying maybe at that date that you would still enforce the ordinance of 82?
With,
If that's
with all
possible.
7. I'm saying we'll have 7 people voting on it instead of 5.
But you're not saying what the ordinance might be, you're
No.
saying whether or not to change the ordinance.
Exactly. I mean, you
So
have a motion right now.
What is your thought on this, when the state says, this is what we're doing, and you are not going to be able to enforce your ordinances? You're comfortable enforcing it till this point?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Again,
that was a question.
I would like to have 7, again, there's a motion, it's been supported, my discussion's over.
I think this also should be a full board discussion.
I don't know that we'll have a full board next month.
Okay, then we vote on the motion. I
We can, I was gonna say, we could still vote, we could stay.
Well,
till
you
we
had a
vote on it
motion
next
and you
month, that's
seconded
fine,
it.
but-
Yeah, and
Vote on it every month.
I will state this, that today I received a resignation from Councilman Dialis to be effective tomorrow.
Oh,
So we
heavens.
will not have a full board 30 days from now. So you'll have a 3-3, 6-member board then. So unfortunately, that particular strategy would not, I don't think, accomplish anything more. Okay, so I will call for the question. And we'll have a roll call vote, please.
I'm going to state one more thing then, and I had prepared a statement tonight, I'm going to read it, all right? And my statement has nothing to do with all the positive comments from the chicken owners here tonight. I do represent more than just 200 people. I feel like I represent the entire village for the good of all people, not just 200 people. Last month, I was one of 4 council trustees who voted to uphold the existing village ordinance on backyard chickens. Tonight, I want to explain why I voted this way. To help me understand the risk, and that's what it is, as a council trustee, I have to understand the risks of all our residents, not just the folks that house chickens. I assessed the Center for Disease Control website for facts on backyard chickens. I found the Center for Disease, CDC, data to be credible and factual. The information on the CDC website do not support statements like there is low to no risk for disease transmission from chickens to humans. So let me read some of the CDC facts. Since 1990 up to 2016, 65 salmonella outbreaks were recorded that have been linked to live poultry. During that time, there was 3,796 illnesses, 661 hospitalizations, and 6 deaths. In 2017, January through August, the CDC recorded the largest number of illnesses linked to the contact with backyard poultry. During that time, there were 1,120 illnesses, 249 hospitalizations, and 1 death. The CD...
Let him read,
Sorry,
please.
let him finish. Please, let him finish.
The CDC interviewed 542 of the 742 that took ill from salmonella. Those people reported being in contact with live poultry the week leading up to their illness. Michigan ranks 11th highest in the country for reported number of salmonella cases associated with backyard chickens. This is all from the CDC. The CDC says as raising a backyard flocks becomes more popular, more people are having contact with chickens and ducks and may not know about the risk of salmonella infection. So the article goes on, I'm going to read it all, because I've heard all the positives tonight for chickens. How do people get salmonella infections from live poultry. Live poultry might have salmonella germs in their droppings and on their bodies, feathers, feet, and beaks, even when they appear healthy and clean. The germs can get on cages, coops, feed water, dishes, hay, plants, in the soil, in and around the areas where the chickens live and roam. Germs can get on the hands of those shoes and clothes of people who handle or care for the birds. There is evidence that salmonella can be transmitted airborne from chickens. People become infected when they put their hands or equipment that have been in contact with live poultry in or around their mouths. Very young children, very old adults, pregnant women, and people with low immune systems are more likely to get sick. Some people caring for their chickens come in contact with items like coops, water dishes where the chickens can live, get sick with actually not touching one of the birds. Germs on hands can be spread easily to other people or surfaces. I do not agree with that raising chickens is no different from having a companion like such as dogs or cats, and here's why. Have you ever had your dog or cat kiss you, your child or grandchild, in the mouth? Do you allow your dog or cat in your home? Do you let your child or grandchildren under the age of 5 playing with your dog or cat? You probably do if you're a pet owner, because I do, all right? The CDC says the CDC definitely recommends not that you do any of these with backyard chickens. Otherwise, you are putting your family and others at risk of getting sick with salmonella. A couple more questions. Do you wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water each time your child or grandchild touches your dog or cat? Do you supervise your child or grandchild washing their hands immediately after petting or coming in contact with your dog or cat? I would think most people would say no. The CDC recommends you should always wash your hands, and adults should supervise hand washing of children immediately following contact with backyard chickens. If you do not wash right after contact or working in the area where chickens live, you are putting your family and others at risk with getting salmonella. The CDC may not come right out and say it, but common sense tells me that backyard chickens are not the same as having a companion like dogs or cats. Brandon Township does not allow Class 3 animals, chickens, on property sizes less than 2.5 acres. The village is very much smaller than Brandon Township. We have lots much smaller than half acres. Backyard chicken coops put our residents at risk. Residents that are elderly, women who are pregnant, have asthma, respiratory type illnesses, people with low immune systems, and young children are all at higher risk of salmonella infection. Residents downwind from chicken coops should not have to worry about the possibility of inhaling airborne salmonella. I respectfully request this council consider these risks before you place your vote tonight. As council trustees representing all village residents, I cannot ignore the public health issues associated with raising backyard chickens. It is for those reasons I will not be supporting any number of backyard chickens in the village.
I would like to, I have a prepared statement also that I would like to read, and it doesn't have a lot of statistics, but it's a reason why my family and I moved out here, and it's very short. I've learned more about chickens in the last 3 months than I ever thought I would ever need to know, and I'm pretty sensitive to both sides. I live in it where my house is situated on our lot. If my neighbors had chickens, I wouldn't know it. But just within the last couple of months, neighbors that had chickens and neighbors next to them that had dogs, the dogs killed the chickens. I don't know if it met in the report, Lieutenant Glover. It was handled with the neighbors. But it does happen. So, and I live there. So personally, not having any skin in this game, if either of my neighbors had chickens, we would know about it. We try to be reasonable. However, I would like to speak to the point I have heard made that we are a rural community, so therefore anything goes pretty much because we're a rural community. Well, my answer to that, because I had to think long and hard about this, is we moved out from the city of Detroit 30 years ago. We're not the old timers, but 30 years is something. So when we moved out from the city, we wanted to be in a rural area, but not in the township. The village offered maybe protection, it had sidewalks, it had its thing. And that's why we live here. We understand, like all villages, there's going to be more restrictions, there's going to be some more ordinance that people may not like, but we live in the village, and then the townships are different stories. I do have neighbors that have complained to me, and I'm maybe here because of different things, but they've complained to me where their neighbors who have chickens had to deal with the smell. And I know you're all here, you're all pro-chicken people, and I know you support it, but there's other people, like Dan said, that we look at the whole village, and that's where I'm coming from. So that's my prepared statement, and I feel that I cannot either support chickens in the village at this time.
Okay, we have a motion and a support.
I was just say, in Mark, to your rebuttal, a lot of people did say rural areas. Many urban areas have them, many big cities, many little cities. So I don't think that's necessarily an argument, whether we want it or not in our village, but I think to say rural versus urban, Ferndale, Ann Arbor, Royal Oak, Clarkson, Fenton, they all are bigger than us and they all have chickens. So I don't think that's an argument as to whether we decide to do it or not, as to who's bigger or smaller than us.
No, I thought about that a lot, but I also thought about, well, in an urban area where we live or somebody else lives, because somebody else does it, doesn't necessarily mean we have to do it.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter whether anybody bigger than us in a rural or an urban area do it.
But a lot
It's
of
what
these
do we
areas,
want here.
and a lot of these areas are kind of new. I know you just mentioned about Fenton going from 3 to 18 or Holly or whatever.
Holly went from
what they're
3 to
doing.
6.
But there are sites,
I
so
know,
I'm
I'm
just saying.
joking. So
people
it may be 13 in 2 years, because I don't know if some of my neighbors would be interested in that, and they have a right to. So
That's fine.
that would be my answer.
And Dan, just quickly with that, reptiles are the same exact thing. Everybody has reptiles in their homes as well. Your children wash their hands. Pregnant women cannot touch cat litter. You have to wash your hands. You're not allowed around cat litter. There's no difference. You wash your hands. The same exact paperwork you have from the Center of Disease Control is the same information. They've all been references. If you read through the resources you were given, Center of Disease Control, wash your hands, and none of that will matter. And that's what it says. And again, you get salmonella, you have way more of a chance of picking up a bag of lettuce at Meijer than you do right with your own chickens in your yard. And that is a fact on Center of Disease Control. So the same information. So we can, pull it either way depending on whether we're for or against. We can find the information we're looking for. Bottom line is, what does our community want and what do we want to give them?
Okay, so we have a motion. Any other?
Well, yeah, I was going to make some comments. Mine, I guess you would call them, they've been prepared. Basically, I've been looking into the issue in the communities of Fenton, Holly, Lathrop Village, Ferndale, Madison Heights, Royal Oak, and yes, they do allow chickens. And I'm not opposed to allowing chickens. But I've noticed, except for today, I'm finding out that Holly went from 3 to, you're telling me Holly went from 3 to 6. But the other communities are still at 3. And actually, one of them is a pilot program. They're going to see how it works out. And I'm certainly never going to support an ordinance that allows people to have 10 chickens on these small lots here in the village of Ortonville. I'm probably never going to go there. I think it's too much.
Can I please comment on that?
No.
Being conservative about this, I'm probably going to only get to the point where I think that an ordinance that allows 3 chickens per single family housing unit is probably as far as I think we should go with this. There's a lot of discussion that needs to be done here.
Okay, excuse me. Brenda, excuse me. We have a motion on the floor to suspend the ordinance enforcement. We are not talking about the revision of an ordinance at this point in time.
Mhm.
So all we're talking about essentially is to suspend the enforcement and to look into creating our own ordinance. And that is when the numbers of chickens could.
Well, but we have had suggestions for the numbers of chickens
Absolutely,
tonight, so.
absolutely. And we
I
need to-
am responding to
We
that.
need to take that into consideration. So for the time being, unless you have any other questions about suspending the ordinance, then we'll need to vote. Is there any other comments otherwise?
I'd like to have the motion reread, please.
Motion by Bryce, seconded by Wills to suspend the 1982 ordinance enforcement and look into recommendations for possible change or creation of village ordinance to allow for chickens.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Eshman,
No.
Sleva,
Yes.
Wills,
Yes.
Bryce,
Yes?
Butsu,
No.
Motion passes. So we will be looking into what we can do to take care of the issues of the numbers, take care of the roaming issues, and to take care and to codify all of the requirements that John had listed earlier. No commercial selling of eggs or meat. What other items are in that?
Setbacks.
Setbacks, et cetera. So now, next item on our agenda is public comments on non-agenda items. These would be any other items you might want to address that you have a burning desire to talk to council about, other than the issues that we've already addressed. So if you'd like to do so, please step to the podium and give your name and address, and then state the commentary that you would like to address.
I can't sit here and think about this anymore. I've been a Brandon Township resident since I was born, been here 55 years, and I keep looking at that sign up there that says, "Proud past, promising future." I'm Mary Ann Floyd. My in-laws lived here since 1940, and I was stupid and stayed in Brandon Township. I'm sorry, I did. Because now we're fighting over a stupid issue. Your sign up there says proud past, promising future. We want a promising future for the youth of Oakland County. There is not any farms left in Oakland County because you people have run them all out. You move out. Let's move to the country. The first thing they do is put up a stupid yard light. And then they let their dogs run loose. So you guys better think long and hard. I've been here probably longer than most of you sitting on the council.
Thank you. Any other comments? Now's your chance. Chris?
I have to address the salmonella issue.
Oh,
I'm
wait a
sorry.
minute. We've already talked about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've.
Okay, I'm talking about non-agenda items that we have not discussed. Yes, sir. Sorry, Chris. We've had our chances.
Mark Robinson, I live here on Mill Street. I haven't been to a meeting in a long time, just scheduling and everything else, but down there on Narren Street, you got the Jets Pizza, you got the eyesore of the dumpster. I brought that up several months ago. We still got the same issue. You know, what's going to be done? Usually most communities or areas have dumpsters caged around the business, and I still see the trash cans wide open, and I live right on Mill Street there, right around the corner, and I see trash blowing my way quite often. So I'm asking that you guys try to address it.
Your last name again?
Robinson.
Robinson. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Any others?
During Courtney McLaren, 880 Mill Street, I'm the last house in the village at the top of the hill. During my time helping to circulate the petition, a resident approached me and asked me, hey, since you're on council, and I said, unfortunately, I'm not on council anymore, but what do you need? And he said, the kids who stand at the bus stop at the subdivision stand there in the dark every single morning. People fly down Mill Street, and Dan, you well know, 50 miles an hour, and they're standing at the bus stop in the dark first thing in the morning. So he asked if I would bring that to you and have you guys look into that. As coincidentally, I had no idea.
Millen Village Court?
Millen, I think he said at the mouth of the subdivision.
Crescent Hill.
Yeah, I believe that from my understanding, he was saying at the mouth of the subdivision, not.
Yeah, it's pretty dark there.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
What's the name of it, Courtney? Millen.
Crescent Hill.
Crescent Hill.
Crescent Hill Drive.
Okay, because I did take a call the other day with somebody telling me a light was out there, so.
Okay, he, in our conversation, and forgive me, I didn't look, he said that there is no light there, so maybe it's the same person and the light's just out, I'm not sure. Either way, I told him I'd bring it and just happened to coincide with what you talked about earlier, so. Other than that, I would love to see the Halloween bonfire made as mandatory for council personnel as possible so that the council personnel are forced to better interact with the citizens in which they represent. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Any others?
Well, with all the walking that I did around the village, you spent a heck of a lot of money on that bridge over here on Ball Street. You might want to go take a look at it because it's cracking pretty good.
Okay, hearing no other commentary from the public and no other business to address at this point in time, this meeting stands adjourned.